let's get to the Quad meeting that was here in Washington, D.C. today. It's an important meeting, and it was one that Penny Wong was a part of. She was meeting with her Japanese, Indian and US counterparts. This is what both Penny Wong and Marco Rubio had to say.
I was very grateful that the Secretary again expressed his regret for the meeting that was scheduled for the G7 having to be rescheduled. He spoke to me after that meeting and expressed that regret. I explained to him we perfectly understood why the President had to leave given the circumstances, and we agree that we will reschedule this meeting. We both look forward to the leaders' meet.
One that I've personally been very focused on is diversifying the global supply chain of critical minerals, not just access to the raw material, but also access to the ability to process and refine it to usable material. It's critical for all technologies and for all industries across the board. And so having a diverse and reliable global supply chain of these is just one example of many that we can focus on and build upon.
Joining me live now is former Home Affairs Secretary Mike Pezzullo, who would have been eagerly watching this Quad meeting and what it means for many elements of Australia's foreign policy. Mike, great to see you. These AUKUS discussions, once again, this is due to be this 30-day review. It actually finishes next week. What is the biggest fear there, and is there any hope out of this meeting? Because the note was that Marco Rubio did raise AUKUS or the level of defence spending with Penny Wong, but of course this is a meeting between foreign ministers, not defence ministers.
Good morning, Laura from Canberra. Yes, that's true. Marco Rubio, although it is the case that he's the Secretary of State and met with the ministers in that capacity, so met with foreign ministers, is also actually acting as National Security Advisor to the President with the dismissal of the NSA Mike Waltz some weeks ago. So Rubio does actually have that secondary dual hat, so he's got a direct line to the President on national security issues. I'm not surprised that the question of Australian defence spending did not come up, and for this reason, and if we just zoom out a little bit and then we'll zoom back into the meeting, I don't think, Laura, that American policy in relation to the Indo-Pacific is as settled as what a lot of the commentators think. I think President Trump has been so focused and so consumed, just in terms of time and attention, on the European theatre, both with what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, with NATO military capability, and obviously the Middle East, where you've got both the Palestine issue, the Iranian issue, and those interconnections, and trying to work his way through all of that. And of course, he's got a whole series of domestic issues that you're seeing there up close in Washington, where you are, with the taxation bill, the ongoing issue at the border. I don't think agencies want to get ahead of the President. He's clearly someone who makes the final decision on everything. And until he sets the view about this essential question, and this is the quintessential question, whether it's the Quad or Australian defence spending or AUKUS, is America going to confront China and seek to deter their use of aggression and force, or will they cede them space in the Indo-Pacific, including in terms of gaining territorial satisfaction on some of the claims that they have, and take a step back? Until that question gets resolved, Laura, I think we're in a holding pattern in the Indo-Pacific.
Yeah, certainly. Well, what about this AUKUS review? You don't do a review if you don't want to make slight changes or tweaks, really. But I would note the caveat to that is that a new administration does do a review, and Trump, just a couple of months after he's inaugurated, has done just that. Keir Starmer did it as well with the AUKUS review. But what's the best and the worst case scenario? Are there small tweaks coming, do you think, or are there big changes that might fundamentally undermine this security pact, in our view at least?
Laura, great question. I think it really turns on the point I've just made. If the White House, not the Pentagon, if the White House wants to put the heavy on Australia in relation to a number of things, the availability of those Virginia-class submarines. So from the Pentagon's point of view, the concern is if we sell one to the Australians in 2032, which is 7 years away, then that's one fewer that we have. Now, we've talked before about how that can be ameliorated. We can help them maintain more boats so that they can get more boats back out to sea, so that could maybe ameliorate that problem. I think from the Pentagon's point of view, what they do want to see Australia do is to lift its game in terms of its own military capability and get yet more access to those US force posture initiatives that we've spoken about before. The ability to launch military strikes from Australia, the ability potentially to fire missiles from Australia, the ability to sail at submarines, as they will be able to do from Perth in a couple of years' time. Is that the White House's view? That's what I'm not clear about. If, as occurred with NATO, the White House takes the view that Europe has to do more, if they apply that same rubric to Japan, Australia and others, then I think that's going to be quite a willing discussion. If that's not the President's view, then I think a very different outcome will arise. So the review might well be quite difficult for Australia because it might demand, for instance, more defence spending, or it might put a pause on the potential transfer and sale in 2032. But if that's not President Trump's view, it'll just get shelved.
Mike, it's always good to talk to you to get your insights, especially on a day like today. We will catch up with you very soon.